Hello, welcome to Amaryllis Art. Today I'm going to show you my process for creating an illustration specifically for a mushroom witch. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I generally do when I start drawing an illustration is I start going through Pinterest and seeing what other people have done. So we can go ahead and look at my screen right now, and I've gone and I've picked through a bunch of art that just kind of generally appeals to me. I really liked this one, and that kind of gave me the idea to maybe try and do my own little mushroom witch. And I've also looked at a lot of other drawings that people have done of witches. This one appealed to me as well, how she's got kind of the bloomers that look like the mushroom fins. So yeah, I'm just kind of skimming through these, seeing what other people have done. So I'll go ahead and drag this off to the side. And my tool of preference is Photoshop. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a background layer in here. Okay, now that I've put the background layer in, I'm going to rename this layer Sketch Ideas, so that I have so that I remember that it is for my ideas as I try and figure out what I want to draw. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of sketch out similar items to what I've seen on Pinterest, the things that specifically capture my attention. Okay, so I've got a couple ideas now for costume pieces that I might want to incorporate into this drawing. I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at some actual mushrooms and see if there's anything that I really like that I want to pull into my drawing from that. Now, I really like the fins on the bottom of these mushrooms and the texture of that, so I think I'm gonna want to try and pull some of that in. Okay, I'm gonna delete this layer now since I've pretty much sketched what I need. Yeah. I'm gonna lock my background layer because I don't want to actually draw on that. I just want to draw on the sketch layer. The background layer is just that, just background. Okay, so I've kind of got an idea now of what sort of elements I want to incorporate into my drawing. I've taken a few sketches of what sorts of things I want to draw. Now I'm going to go ahead and create another layer for the composition, for the sort of composition I want. I'm going to go ahead and turn off visibility for sketch ideas, since I'm going to just think about what characters I want. Okay, so an idea I just had while sketching this out was adding a little frog buddy and then having this mushroom witch having a little tea party with a frog friend. So I'm gonna look up some frog reference images in a second here. Okay, yeah, I have no idea how to draw frogs, so I'm actually gonna go ahead and pull up search engine and look for frogs on Pinterest. I don't think I haven't been drawn to frogs before, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab some frogs now. So as I'm skimming through these frog images, I'm finding that the ones that I like the best are the ones that don't actually look that much like frogs, but actually look like little blobs. Actually, this one is fucking adorable. Oh my gosh. I just can't get over how cute that is. And that's a pretty realistic looking frog, so maybe I'll draw something kind of rotund like that. Okay, let's go ahead and go back into Photoshop and let's go back to the sketch ideas and try to, oops. Yeah, go back over here and start sketching out like what I might want a frog to look like. Okay, well I think I'm relatively happy with how this sort of frog design looks. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a mushroom on his head or not yet, but I have at least got a start of my idea, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to my composition layer. So I'm starting to figure out what I want to do with this illustration. Let me explain the importance to you of doing the sketching and the research first. So you don't always have a concrete idea of what something looks like in your head, even though you know a general idea. So it helps if you look at references of what other people have done so that you can kind of assemble all the various knowledge together into something more concrete that you can actually draw. If you don't do your research first, you're more likely to have an image that looks a little softer and maybe isn't as well defined, and maybe it's a little detail light. So if you want something that's going to be a little more detail heavy and a little more interesting to look at, I definitely recommend looking at some reference images. So doing the composition sketch kind of takes all of my sketch ideas that I have floating in my brain now and tries to put them into some sort of concrete order and unification that I want to be my eventual illustration. I take the pieces that interest me the most out of the sketching that I've done, and I've tried to assemble it in a way that makes sense and seems logical. And then I try to look at where I might be missing some balance, where things might be unbalanced. You can kind of see over in this area, I don't have a lot going on. So it might not be a bad idea if I try and think of something that I can add in here. So something I might be able to add might be maybe another person or a mushroom, or I could even maybe flip this teapot around and have some steam coming up from there maybe. So that kind of fills out some of my empty space that I might otherwise have. So you don't necessarily have to stick with the composition sketch that you make, but you need to at least have that to firm up your ideas so that you know how you want to assemble it later and to give yourself something more concrete to go off than just your imagination. When you're in the penciling stage of your composition, you don't necessarily have to do it in a blue pencil like I'm doing. I just decided to do that so that I could trace on top of my composition ideas layer and have a rough idea of where my new lines are being put down so I don't get confused as I'm going along. Now, when I am creating an illustration, my recent preferred way to do it is actually in physical media on paper with pencil, actual graphite pencil and ink. But I wanted to kind of illustrate. I wanted to show my process of how I create an illustration, kind of from beginning to end, so I decided to go for a digital illustration this time, which is going to make it a little easier for part of the process at least, because I can do as many layers as I want and do Control Z as opposed to just ruining my work. I'm kind of making a mistake on these mushroom dots as I'm drawing them. You gotta remember that mushrooms are curved, so I need to draw my mushroom dots a little more elongated so it looks like they're on a curved surface rather than just being a sticker slapped onto like a flat piece of paper. Don't forget to use your foreshortening. As it gets closer to the edge of the curve, it's gonna get, oops, flatter and flatter. Just flung my pencil. I'm starting to like how this is turning out. I'm probably going a little more crazy on the shading than I probably should be at this point, since I haven't even started inking yet. I'm just penciling in my sketch. So I'll go ahead, and I think I'm pretty happy with how the mushroom's looking, so I think I'm going to bring back up my composition ideas and then start figuring out how I want to sketch my little witch girl in. Oh, remember, if you want to be careful that you don't accidentally draw onto a layer that you're pretty much done with, be sure to lock your layers as you finish working on them. So you just go over here to your layers section, and then you make sure that you're selected on the layer you want to lock, and then just click this little lock right here. There, so that way I don't have to worry about accidentally drawing on this layer, and then when I remove it, all of the work that I just did is essentially gone and I have to redo it. So yeah, quick tip. Maybe don't be like me, and when you first start drawing the head, try to decide what angle you want to draw it at before you start drawing, so you don't end up with your chin in one place and then your mouth way off center from where it should be. I know some artists recommend when you draw an illustration with a person that you want to have like a line of action to kind of show how they're moving. I don't generally use lines of action unless I'm trying to do a very complex pose. I usually use, if I want to sketch a line of action, I usually do it in my composition sketch or my ideas sketches, so that I kind of get an idea of how I want the hips and the shoulders to balance out. In this instance, I'm just going to kind of maybe wing it, which maybe I shouldn't do, but that's just kind of the way I prefer to do it, I guess. Whether it's the right way or not is honestly up to the artist. So if you want to draw a line of action and make sure that you have a really good line of action, then maybe you can sketch it yourself beforehand. remember when you're drawing the shoulder, that the shoulder isn't necessarily right at the edge of the body outline that you draw, that it's, especially if you're at a 3/4 view, that it's going to be a little sunken into the form. So it's going to be about here for this character. Okay, well, that's finished off the penciling and idea sketching process. So I want to thank you for joining me today. I'll see you in my next video where I will start the inking process. Don't forget to like and subscribe.